So now I'm going to teach you how to properly roll your sleeves on your utility blouse. If you do it the correct way, you'll have good sleeves and such that complements your guns. Now, that being said, you have your utility uniform. First thing you want to do is make sure you completely button up the utility uniform. Do not button the top button. Do not button the top button. You will never button the top button. The button is there for display. Now, with that being said, once you completely button up the utility uniform, what you want to do is lift it up and make sure that eagle global anchor on the left breast pocket is facing down. Once you flip the blouse over, extend the sleeves out as such. Now at this time, you're going to grab the end of the blouse and you're going to flip it over as such. Once you flip that blouse over, now mind you, you didn't flip it over completely away. You're just grabbing the end of the blouse and you're rotating it over until you see the breast pockets. Once you see the breast pockets where the name tapes, whether it's your high school name tape or if they let you put your last name, right where the name tapes go, you're going to fold it over until that point. At this time, this is where you have to pay attention. This is when you start rolling sleeves. Now, depending on your arm, if you have a big arm, skinny arm, whatever the case may be, determines how big your initial fold has to be. So with some of you skinnier cadets, what you might have to do is essentially make a bigger fold as such. I advise you, if you have a average arm, skinny arm, I'll say bring this in over to this middle stitching. This middle stitching right here, as such, and hold it. Alright? Now, if you have bigger arms, like such, I'll say just make a smaller fold as such. Or if you really have big arms, no fold at all. No fold at all. So for this instruction purposes only, we're going to make a minor fold, halfway point. Now, key point, what you want to do, you want to pinch this fold. If you let it go, it's going to come undone. Pinch this fold. Also make sure this button is buttoned through the hole. That very first hole. As such. Now, once you have that fold, you're not going to let it go. You're going to pinch it. Now, your first fold, what you want to do, make a nice fold. Also, I'm telling you now, make sure you pinch it. If you let it go, you're going to mess up the sleeve. Make sure you pinch it. And now at this time, this is how your first fold is going to look. You're not going to fold it too much where you got 4 or 5 inches and now you're showing the inside of the sleeve just yet. Just fold it at very first cuff length, fold it over once, and you're good. Now with your right hand, you're going to work the inside of it. Make sure you get all those wrinkles and any creases out. So it should be nice, flat, as such. Now this time, you're going to grab that fold once again. You're going to go for your second fold. Now don't worry while you're folding. You're like, oh man, I messed up. You know, and you're going to unfold because it's going to look nasty at first. That's okay. Just make sure you get that fold in. As such. And then use your right hand to once again work the inside. Once you get that second fold, you can let go of that pinch for now. You can let go of the pinch and use both hands to make sure that sleeve is nice and crisp. If you want to go the extra mile, which, hey, if I was you, I would do so. Grab that iron after every sleeve, after every roll, you want to iron that portion down, front and back, to make sure it's extra crisp. Now, when you're ready for your next roll, once again, grab that pinch. Roll it once again. Work your way around. Make sure it's nice and flat. You don't have any extra folds in there. Get all those creases out. At this time, once you get 3 to 4 rolls in, what you want to do, I highly recommend before you go all the way up, you want to stick your hand in there as such. Now, like I said, for instructional purpose only, I made these sleeves a little bit tighter for the average high school cadet because your arm's not that big. But what you want to do, you want to stick your right hand in there all the way up to your forearm. It should be nice and snug on your forearm. If the sleeve is too tight and you feel like it's constricting the blood flow in your forearm, that right there should let you know if it doesn't fit on your forearm, it's not going to fit on your bicep. All right. So with that being said, what you want to do, unroll it, loosen up that sleeve, make a smaller fold, and try to re-roll it. Now, if you, let's say you go in, and let's say if it's loose right here. Let's say when it gets to right here and it's loose like this, it lets you know you need to make a tighter sleeve. So let's say you need to bring this fold over to the right some more and then re-roll it again. Now, I know everyone likes to have tight sleeves. I understand it. Your sleeve should not be as tight to where the point where your veins is popping out and you cannot feel the blood flow to your fingers. It feels good at first, but after 2-3 hours, your fingers will start to go numb and you won't be able to perform normal tasks with your hands because there's no blood flow going through. So make sure your sleeves is not too tight. It should be nice and firm. A good idea, a good rule of thumb, you want to be able to stick 2 fingers in there and you should be able to move it around freely. But at the same time, if you take your 2 fingers out, it should look nice and snug as such. So, back to rolling the sleeve. Let's say you got your right measurement. It's not too loose, it's not too tight. You want to just keep making your way all the way to the top. Remember, after every fold, work it. Get your fingers in there and work it all the way through. All right? Get the extra folders out there. Make sure it's nice and tight before that next roll. Now, normally, at first, if this is your first time rolling sleeves, it's going to take you about maybe 5 to 10 minutes trying to get that perfect sleeve. But once you start to perfect it, how to properly roll your sleeves, you know how tight it needs to be or how loose it needs to be, it's only going to take you about 2 minutes of sleeve to properly roll it. And you're going to be lightning fast. Your sleeve's going to be looking good, and who knows, you might get promoted. I don't know. You might get promoted. All right, so now you're starting to get to the top. Good rule of thumb is, as you see, on my sleeve, there's a small triangle on both sides. Your sleeve, according to the Marine Corps order, Papa 5060, my apologies. According to the Marine Corps order, Papa 1020.34 golf, your sleeve will fall in between your elbow and your shoulder, in the middle. At no time will your sleeve be on your elbow or lower than your elbow. At a minimum, 2 inches above the elbow. A good rule of thumb, make sure it's midway between the shoulder and the elbow. All right. The way you know you're almost there is when you roll your sleeve. Get a little thickness. Hey, once you try to roll your sleeve and it gets a little thick, don't worry about it. Hey, it's gonna look, like I said, it's gonna look nasty at first until you get your hands in there and you roll it out. So like right now, the sleeve looks nasty. If you just work with it a little bit, get all that baggage out, you flip it over, work that sleeve though. Now, notice how you see this triangle right here. You got a triangle, hey, that's how you know you're just where you want to be. That lets you know that you're at the halfway point between your elbow and your shoulder as such. When you see this triangle right here, that lets you know you're at the halfway point. Do not roll your sleeve too far on the shoulder where this pocket, this flap, is completely covered by the sleeve. It doesn't feel good and it doesn't look good at all. Make sure it's in the halfway point. At this time, once again, just go ahead, run your hand through there. If it's too tight, the way to loosen up, seriously, right here with your fold. This whole time you've been pinching, all you have to do to loosen it up is grab it and just pull it apart slowly. That time what's going to happen is going to loosen up the sleeve and it's going to allow your hand to slip through. So at this time, what's going to happen, the sleeve is done. The sleeve is done, it's good to go. And at this time you open up the blouse, well, my apologies. You will go ahead and do the other side. For time purposes, I'm not going to do the other side. I don't want a 20-minute long video, all right? But since the same thing you did on this side, you're gonna do on the opposite side. This time, what you're gonna do, you're gonna open the blouse and try the sleeve on. Once you open the blouse, mind you, do not just try to go too fast and put your arm through. There's a fold in here, right here. If you put your arm through and your fingers grab into that fold, you keep pushing through, your sleeve is gonna come undone. Make sure you have a clean shot through. Once you get your fingers through, at that time, you can just pull it straight through. All right, now this sleeve is too tight, I'm not gonna put it on. All right, if for some strange reason, your sleeve is too tight, you wanna know what it feels like, you put it on, and then you get stuck. I promise you, if your sleeve is too tight, you will get stuck. You will maybe need 2, 3 other cadets, maybe your mom and dad, to help you take that sleeve off. Hey, you learned your lesson, all right? But, hey, you get it how you get it. So, now with that being said, there's going to be times when you roll your sleeves. I love sleeves. There's going to be times when you roll your sleeves, this one might be high, this one might be low. You're going to feel like your sleeves are uneven. Hey, it is what it is. For me, personally, as long as your sleeves are somewhat on the same level and they look fairly the same, it works perfectly for me. But one thing you will not have one tight sleeve and on the other sleeve is going to be loose. Try to get it around the same. If they both firm, try to get them both firm. Me personally, I keep rolling my sleeves until they're exactly the same, at the exact same level, because I like to look crisp and perfection when I'm in my uniform. And that's just me personally. But for you, hey, keep rolling those sleeves until you get them roughly about in the same ballpark where it doesn't look uneven. Now, today, I have taught you how to properly roll your sleeves. Hey, kids, I'm going to let you know right now, first time doing it, 10 minutes, it's going to teach you, it's going to take you your time, you're going to get frustrated, stick with it. Rolling sleeves is an art, it honestly is. Took me a while to perfect how my arms are and how to properly roll my sleeves, but I perfected it after numerous tries, retrying. It comes easy now, you understand? So, just stick with it, and you'll have sleeves almost as good as mine. Never be as good as me, though.